So today I'm going to talk about drones, technicals, and vietcong bicycles. Now, the reason we got here is I listened to one of Nutnfancy's videos talking about the 50 caliber Browning machine gun round and using Barrett's in SHTF. There's only two things in that video I agree with what he said. One is the cost of the systems. If you're going to go with a Barrett, by the time you buy ammunition and other accoutrements, the weapon, optics, so on and so forth, you're going to spend $15,000. The other one is the extreme range issue. Now, with the Browning 50 caliber, you have a 7-mile extreme range. And that's the biggest issue with that round. One thing he didn't really mention is the fact that the 338 Lapua, 4.8 SHTF, 416 Barrett, you have the same issues. Nobody really publishes an extreme range for those rounds, but it is greatly in excess of normal rifle rounds. So you actually have a lot of ranges that won't let you fire any of those cartridges either because of extreme range. Now, where we get into the biggest issue with Nutnfancy is what he calls philosophy of use. The reason for his error in thought process is the fact he confuses two of the uses of the Browning. And what he tries to do is to have a one-stop shop solution. And he does admit that there's a difference between a 50 caliber sniping system and a 50 caliber anti-material system. But the problem is he doesn't really base his philosophy of use on what SHTF would really be like. And the reason the Browning 50 caliber as an anti-material weapon is glossed over is the fact that it's really used as a support weapon, and it's used to fire against personnel, material, vehicles, light fortifications, buildings, aircraft. And that's where really we come into the issue with what he said. Anybody that's been around Barretts in the military will know that there are actually vehicular mounts and tripod mounts for the Barrett. That's where it really shines. Because if you look at a Barrett 50 caliber, you can take a pintle mount and mount it on a technical or a military vehicle or a tripod. When you do that, you can put precision, accurate fire on area and transpo targets, buildings, things like that. Now, the Barrett is really a lightweight counterpart to the Browning 50 caliber machine gun. It's not really a sniper rifle because it doesn't have the accuracy. So when you look at Barrett's and you look at the fact that it's a mass production item, it's kind of like comparing an M14 to an M21 or M40 sniper rifle. The usage and capabilities are very different. So when we look at the Browning, we really got to make a distinction between sniping and a support weapon. Because when you think of it as an anti-material weapon, you really gloss over the support features of the weapon. So when it's tripod mounted or it's mounted on a technical, and the interesting fact is most people own a technical, they just don't know it yet. In SHTF, you're going to find a lot of machine guns, mortars, Barretts mounted on pickup trucks, Jeeps, and everything else. And the fact is, you can buy you a pintle mount for $200 or $300. You can buy a pintle mounted on any type of truck, and you have a technical. And that's where the Barrett would really shine, because the pintle mounted Barrett removes the recoil issue and it removes the transport issue. And the biggest advantage of that is the fact that you can actually carry a lot of ammunition. So that gives you the capacity to engage buildings, vehicles, light fortifications. And light fortifications and buildings are the wild card in SHTF. I did extensive videos and teaching on using improvised materials to build light fortifications. I did tests on it with heavy rifles, and what we found is the heavy rifle is a good short-range substitute for a 50 caliber weapon system. And the reason is you can carry it anywhere you want to go. And for a limited amount of rounds, you can penetrate a lot of barriers that you couldn't with conventional small arms. The problem is those weapons have more recoil than the 50 caliber systems. So you may be able to fire between 6 and 10 rounds before the weapon whoops you bad. Now, with a vehicular mounted Barrett, you can put a lot of sustained fire down, and that's the real benefit of it. And that gives you standoff capacity, because you can fire 50 or 60 rounds with no problem off of a vehicle pintle mount with a Barrett against distant targets employing area fire. And that's a capacity you don't get with any sniping system. Now, where the drones come in is the fact that in SHTF, if you watch any of the stuff from Ukraine and the Middle East, you would know that we use drones to correct fire. You can use it for correcting for sniper systems. You can use it for correcting for Barretts. You can use it for mortars, machine guns, and any of that. So drones are going to be instrumental in SHTF. Now, the last thing is the vietcong bicycle. So let's say you don't have a vehicle, or you don't have fuel, or you can't get a vehicle to the AO. That's where the vietcong bicycle comes in. The vietcong use that to carry mortars, mortar rounds, machine guns, sniping systems, landmines, everything. And when we take into account in SHTF, we will have available to us technicals, drones, vietcong bicycles. That is a force multiplier that allows us to use all kinds of things you wouldn't think you could. Please share your thoughts. We'll see you on the next video.